Louis, of course, has been making a blitzer. He's actually ranked 10th in the world right now. No pushover. Kazva coming in at 15th. Let's see what happens when we head to King of the Hill to crown someone. All right, so it looks like we're going to be going for a Rus Ottoman matchup. Now, for those unaware of Louis, Louis's been around for a while, been trying, been going at it, but he really has been blitzing it in the most recent season. And something I want to give a lot of credit for, it's not like he's completely AFK. He went hard on the grind in team games because, of course, he was part of a team for the Winter Team Championship. But now he's grinding back on the ladders. He's doing okay for himself, still maintain that top 10 spot. He's actually ranked 9th in team games as well, by the way. So ranked 10th in solos, ranked 9th in team games. This guy is definitely no pushover. Very capable dude. I was very impressed with a lot of his stylistic players. I think he was playing a decent amount of French, if I remember correctly, from the tournament. And he performed well on that. I think he is known historically for his French and, if I'm not mistaken, Abbasids. So curious to see what we can do with the Ottomans. And Kaz on the other side, Special K, needs absolutely no introduction. I'm sure we are all familiar with Mr. K here and what he is capable of, the ludicrous strategies he can pull out. I'm curious to see what he's going to do here with the Rus. Are we going to get anything standard, or are we just going to get something kind of off and out of left field? Well, for opening, he's going to go for the free scout build. He did set up the hunting cabin, not in the corner, surprisingly. And the reason I say surprisingly is if you think about the distance to run to this corner versus directly down, it's actually very little added on in comparison. And the cool thing is that you can step back and then set up a wood camp at the corner. The only downside if he did go for this play is it would leave him with a hard-to-defend wood line, right? So you could see a situation which an Ottoman player would wrap around north side here, or even with spears, doesn't even have to wait for archers, and just stab you off your wood, which I think is why he chose to play it a little bit safe. As we are seeing already, the opening is going to be Louis going in for the spears to open up here. Louis plays a lot of Ottomans. Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, I figured he would. I think people really want to get on the Ottoman bandwagon. I think they're an incredibly strong civ. I very much agree with what Ben said, which is that he felt like it was definitely his funnest civ and one of the best, if not the best at the moment. I mean, a lot of people rate Chinese highly, of course, but Chinese was always likely to get banned in competitive 1v1s, which means things like Ottomans do slide through. Have a very powerful timing. You know, originally when this civ was introduced to the game, I thought it was going to be countered by the Delhi because in a lot of ways, it plays like Delhi, but a little bit slower. But in reality, it can dominate even Delhi. Like, the crazy part is the passive production, how you essentially can't be fully shut down once you have, say, 2 military schools plus and a blacksmith around it. And, of course, the cool thing on a map like King of the Hill that can make the Ottomans incredible is the main thing you need to make this war machine chug is wood. Plenty of wood all around here, so it won't be running out anytime soon. And Icon, I see you. Hello from France, he says. Well, yeah, hello. Yeah, enjoy it while it lasts, mate. I'm looking forward to Morocco knocking you out. It's okay, dude. I'm sure in the next football game, you guys will actually get a football referee and not a WWE/mixed martial arts referee. But focusing on the real martial arts that's going to occur here. Spears are starting to come out, and Louis is on the move. Plenty of sheep on the way home. In fact, how many did Kazva get in the end? And by the way, sorry, I just realized we need to switch that around. So Kazva, he got... Wait, are we looking at Kaz? No, we're looking at Louis. Yeah, Kazva actually didn't get as many as I was expecting in this situation. Looks like more went the way of Louis. And of course, he doesn't need them as much, right? Like, he can easily just set up the Madrasa and be comfortable as can be. So a little bit of a frustrating opening for Kaz. We'll see how he supplements this. Wouldn't be surprised if he tries for maybe some like sort of extension out into the deer, but very difficult to do these days. The TC boom isn't as sexy as it once was for the Rus, being delayed by usually an extra minute unless you want to go on the stone. And well, the stone isn't exactly in safe arm's reach here. Be out of range, easily stabbed into by spears. But nonetheless, we'll be going up the Golden Gate. Just a standard choice. Kremlin, I've seen a few people experiment with it, but I'm still not convinced. I don't really feel like it has a place. The only reason you ever want to go to Kremlin is if you're up against a super tempo aggressive type civ that's looking for a breach point. And that opponent has to be running low armored units because unlike a Barbican, you're not going to be able to put a real dent into knights. Just a very frustrating state of affairs. I guess that's maybe, like, I should elaborate on that a bit more. You can, if you have villages inside, right? Because you build a wooden fortress, you get your hands on the castle fortress upgrade, which adds +2 archer damage to each garrison unit's archer shots. Then you can kind of hurt a French knight, right? With this one here, the castle turret, sorry. but you have to garrison for that. Whereas with a Barbican, it's just 25 damage done every time. Tech up. It's going to be complete first by Kaz. He did already open up the wheelbarrow. Of course, a lot of Ottoman players don't really tend to opt for it quickly here. Unlike that Louis playing towards the small wood line, just trying to create these funnel points, right? He can easily wall this off if need be. In fact, before he completely strips the line, I'd love to see him set up a small palisade here and then just make this his dominion. Very hard breach point, especially when you've got the cliff on the other side and your production's coming out from in this area anyway. This guy is getting a sniper on, see what's going to be coming. It is, as expected, going to be the Archer build. Now, this is where things get kind of rough, to be honest, because if you're talking about Ottomans versus Rus, and the goal is for both sides to rush Archers, you do have a decent timing very early on as the Rus, because you get that extra 20% wood straight off. But as time goes on, like the passive unit production is going to add up for the Ottomans. I think something to keep in mind is the potential for Sipahi to come out passively over time, right? Once you generate up to 8, 9, this can start to counter out the Rus. And on top of that, you do have to consider the meta. The meta is the biggest deal breaker here that can actually allow you to kind of even up a fight that should usually favor the Rus. But interesting build from Louis. Doesn't choose to opt for Archers at all. Instead, is going to go for the direct counter into the Sipahi. A lot of stone being gathered, so also looks like Louis might be considering second TC. I could see him maybe just dropping this on the wood line, like just trying to secure resources. Then again, now that he's going for a stables type build, it might be that he wants to secure more food away from home. Could even see a forward TC drop onto the deer here. We'll see if it is this going to be his long-term intent though. As Archer's already hit the field. Kaz, quick on the move. He's going to be hopping onto the gold as well, so wouldn't be surprised if we start adding in a few knights here. But for the time being, it's going to be spears. Love the fact that Kaz was aware of passive Sipahi production. But he's going to get better bang for buck considering the build that Louis opted for. And, oh, hello. Well, we don't see these too often in 1v1s. Louis has gone for the Imam opening. And it's very key that I mentioned the 1v1s, right? Because in team games, the Imam is a decent investment early on. Because, especially on certain maps like, for example, Hideout. Because usually you kind of funnel around in direction. And the Imams can just stay away from the front line. You can retract your troops and get a lot of healing going. Because remember, these Imams, you only spawn 2 of them this early, but they get an AoE heal around them. It's very helpful in team games. And the reason I mention that is because Louis has played a lot of team games. So it might be the experiment with it there, because I feel like I haven't seen many players do this in 1v1s. Well, someone I would expect to see more of in team games is this as well. Town Center is going to be built next to that tree line as anticipated. And it looks like Kazva's too late to have his fun. Archer wraparound is going to be too slow. Now, one mistake, or maybe like lack of optimization Louis here has with his base, is he went for the Madrasa on the northwest side of the TC, as opposed to the southeast that would have given him the closest garrison point when raids came in. Now he's the most exposed here. But it's a very hard breach point for Kazva to access fully. Speaking of Kaz, he's going to lose one of the scouts. A bit of a melee mosh pit going on. And Louis, not sure if that was an intentional micro there, pushes back into the spears, which means he has been stripped of vision, but Louis, of course, did go for a second scout, so still keeps a snooper on the enemy base. Of course, we are going to be seeing the build-up of hunting cabins. It's free real estate, guys. Come on. 33 bounties. I think it was about, that must be a tier 2 bounty that Kaz has. He's setting even more up on the north side as well, so he's all in for the passive gold. Plenty of extra gold coming out of this as well. Kaz, what was the intent here? Because he's not using the gold for anything other than Golden Gate trades. It's a curious situation to find yourself in, a peculiar one at that. Especially now that he's been snooped out by Louis. While pressure continues in the base, I can't help but feel Louis now getting the better side of this. He's buffered the pressure away. He's double TC versus 1. Kaz was playing wide into this infinite gold strategy, but the issue with that is it means it's very difficult for you to defend, especially if your plan is to go for a static comp of archers and spearmen. And remember, the Rus can't easily wall up anymore. They did take a heavy kneecapping with the 4-5 palisade walls being over double the time to build what they used to be. You'll have to commit to them nonetheless. Meanwhile at home, blacksmiths are finally being added in, so this is going to ramp up production. Although the lay of the land for Louis, at least the way he laid his production, means that he's not getting the blacksmith effect on all these buildings. So archery rangers are being neglected in that regard. This will at least help with the Sipahi production. And interestingly enough, Louis still hasn't gone for the meta which is surprising here. Remember, you can get your hands on a meta for free that will also give you the formation movement speed. Very beneficial. But logically, like when you open Sipahi, it's less value, right? Because you have to remember metas move slower than Sipahi, so you're not gaining speed, you're actually losing it. Still kind of a little bit perplexing that now with him adding in archers, he wouldn't want it with that movement speed as well. He does at least have the imams going for him. Man, look at that commitment on the wall. So many being used up here. It's like there was an attempt to secure the ball coming from Kasva. Sipahi have scouted that out, so no doubt Louis now going to wrap to the north, to the south side. However, with the walls going up, if he's not quick, he's going to miss out on the opportunity to get in. I think he realizes as well. He's pivoting back the other way, and this quick wall coming out from Kasva, he's walled everything but the most important place. Unless... Wait, Kasva, what is this game? What are we flirting with here? You're either going for the base, or you're erasing the extension. Make up your mind, though. Looks like he's going to regroup. It's worth pushing out here. Like, you know your opponent is going forward. He's made it very blatant. You either go for that or you go for the deer area. But as we can see, that's not really an option when the Wooden Fortress is already up. So we'll start to push out this way. Keep in mind, Kaz, he has plenty of wood to work with. I'd love to have seen him set up the Wooden Fortress ahead of time. Instead, he has to rush it up now. The good news, of course, for him is that he should be able to get it up. Bad news is Louis still getting more out of this. And remember, Louis, now that he's switched over to archers, there's not really much of a food burden on him, right? He's going to get the passive production of Sipahi consistently. Doesn't even add in additional ones for a price. He doesn't really need much food to succeed here. Whereas Kasva, with this tech up coming out, you can see what his intent is going to be. With that much food being gathered, I wouldn't be surprised if we're looking at a night push in the coming minutes. Or maybe, yeah, men-at-arms spam. So mass men-at-arms up against archers. Now, it should be a good counter, but if you can't get enough out, it can fall apart quickly. I believe he's already, yeah, he's prepping the undermesh, so he's fully aware of what he needs to counter here. Troops are on the move. Of course, the Wooden Fortress is already up, so very difficult to breach this with limited Sipahi. Only 6 of them. Might be Louis wants to think about finding a way to tech up himself, and the moment he sees the high trade houses on, that might be the choice. This high trade house is going to generate a lot of cash, by the way. Well, I'm going to say... Ooh, 346. Does that feel high? I don't think that feels high. Maybe a tiny bit too high. Maybe like 317. Find out in a sec. Raiders coming in the meantime. Burn down attempt being committed to, so Sipahi are going to be able to do that. It's going to be a pushback. Army is going to be wiped out. 254. Underwhelming, Kasva. Aim higher in the future. Just do it. Nike style if you want to succeed in life. Come on. So archers are going to look to snipe out a few of the villagers as they retreat away. That has denied the ball at an important point where Kasva's going to need a lot of food, by the way. Deer are almost drained. He hasn't got a lock on this northern deer site, and well, he doesn't really want to be transitioning farms now that he wants to be massing men-at-arms. So this is a very crucial point in the game for Kaz. Remember, men-at-arms to be effective, you need enough of them opening up. Otherwise, the archers can just start a step back and snipe you out. Increased attack speed is going to be pretty easy-peasy for him as well. Louis, you can already see what his intent is. He's starting to hoard the resources, so he is rushing up. Plenty of people working on the gold. Louis just has the read. Finger on the pulse. It feels like Kasva's not really getting any breathing room. This is one of the benefits of running Ottomans on this type of map, by the way. Yeah, it's just a very food-efficient Civ on a map where food is difficult to access. So much harder now for the Rus. Like I mentioned, that fortified power save wall change, it takes so much longer. It's a lot of idle time, a lot of wood. It feels very difficult to get it up when you need it most. Men-at-arms are starting to move out. Sipahi plus the archers are going to commit, and you can see Kasva knows he does not want to be here anymore. Just wants to buy time for the wall to go up. Will begin to be cutted out. Metas need to be careful not to tank too much damage here. You can see, like, they're holding for the moment, but still needs more men-at-arms. Count has raised into the double digits now, but behind this, remember, Louis is looking to tech up. This is all just buying time. When he steps back like this, it's almost impossible to reach. The only upside he really has here is that Louis never did get the movement speed and formation. The archers are not quick to retreat. behind this, he's going to need more. I like that Kazva is now looking to pick up the relics with the Warrior Monks, but remember, those Warrior Monks are also burdening his economy. 200 gold each. Luckily for Kazva fans, he does have plenty of passive gold coming in. We'll definitely be needing it. Deer, in the meantime, have been secured on the north side by Louis, and look at that, 29 villagers to rush up the Imperial Armory. There's no time to waste. He's already laid his base with the double blacksmiths as well, so plenty of room to extend, and I wouldn't be surprised if, yep, it is going to be the rack, so men-at-arms to counter out the men-at-arms. Plenty of archery ranges to build the crossbows as well. Remember, one issue for Kazva is right now his unit comp is one-dimensional, and it's very difficult to switch this up, right? Like, everything that you could switch into now needs food. You just invested a lot of food into this men-at-arms comp. Like, you know, if you think of the units that die plus the ones he's got, he spent over 2,000 food on men-at-arms. What's the problem with that? Well, the deer are not going to last him very long, so he's definitely going to have to transition farms before Louis. Louis, in the meantime, still has a deer in front of his base, as well as to the north side. Of course, you cannot go for the boar. That's not haram. The tickling of arrows coming in. Remember, you still have this passive army that's going to get upgraded as well, which is worth doing at this stage with 20+ archers. A damage increase will allow them to whittle away at these men-at-arms a bit faster. Really am surprised by the lack of the movement speed upgrade from the meta, though. Usually such a beneficial thing to grab for the Ottomans. It's very surprising that Louis just forgoes it. Still, just keeping back the tide for the time being. Remember, although he's going to lose the archer army, the counter is on the way. Crossbows are now being built up. He's also got passive siege coming, which is going to answer Kazva's next step. Kazva is switching into crossbows. Well, monastery is being built. And you can see what he's prepping for. Sacred Site was captured. He wants to get a keep drop here. He needs to be fast about it because the window is closing fast for Kai. Things have slowed down quite a bit. You can see the raid attempts. Kazva trying to make his way through the walls. Louis, he's gathering stone as well. So this is going to be a race, folks. It's looking like it's going to be a keep drop race for the center. Right now, there's no denying that Louis has the clear edge. Double the stone being gathered per minute. Already ahead in surplus. Even with the Golden Gate, Kazva cannot beat this punch time. And with a counter of crossbows and men-at-arms coming out as well, consider this. How do you stop a keep drop from coming in? You don't have mangoes of your own if it's Kazva. You're limited to the men-at-arms count now. Although you've answered crossbows with crossbows, it means your men-at-arms are still counted. Nice coming out. Second wave on the way in. Remember, the meta's going to be in there, so that attack speed buffer. Make or break each of these fights. Archers will instantly look to target out the crossbows. Good micro coming out from Louis. Controls the back line of Kaz. Kazva, that men-at-arms count is about to go on to 10, at which stage he's not going to have much of a front line to work with. Remember, the rest of them are on the flank over here, and they've been denied at every turn. Oh, no. Well, this is falling apart fast. He needs more food, and he knows it. The boar has been left in no man's land, so nobody's getting that. Is this farm transition incoming? It's farm or berries. Either way, it's going to cripple your economy. After all that, Kazva just really did not get much. Just look at the destroyed value. Yeah, look at the army value situation. Mangoes just being added in as freebies for Louis. Keep prep to be dropped. Honestly, I'm not really sure how Kazva gets in and deals with the mango anymore. The men-at-arms count is far too low. He could try to pivot horsemen, but you see the issue here, right? Every single solution I can provide you with costs a lot of food. So your only other way is to go siege, right? And that's exactly what he has to do. He has to go in the Springwalls. He's got plenty of wood, plenty of gold. Has to set up a second TC as well, though. Once again, another food burden. Remember, Kazva's done this so late, he's already 30 villagers behind. This is one of those awkward situations where you really wish you had like maybe 1 or 2 knights while there were raid-in points. Right, you could have tried to put a dent in this eco. You could have tried to slow things down, play kind of a pseudo-French while you boom up yourself. But it's got to be said, Louis, from a very early point, thanks to that horseman switch and then layering in the archers, he's been tempo setter. Means that he's forced Kazva to shy away from food resources he needs. And also, every time Kazva has to react to raids, he's not making raids happen himself. Kazva will at least be able to kill off little Pumba here. who has gone full psycho and is attacking the wrong player. The Hellpumba. Man, this is about to get very slow. More Springles being built as well. He needs Trebs though. Kazva has to be aware of what's happened on the hill. Especially with the Sacred Site Cat now coming through. So all this control. And almonds are a tough cookie to crack if you can't keep relentless pressure up. And you're seeing why. Like, this passive reduction is going to be difficult to deal with. I think Louis could just look to switch into Springles now. He continues to produce the Mangonels, but with 2 of them, that should be good enough. Those Mangonels are going to start to strip vision away. Remember, Kazva has had good eyeballs on the flanks, but he's about to lose that aspect. And for those wondering, Kazva, I believe he did scout the second TC. He would have seen the stone gathering very early on, and he did wrap around the archers, but it was too tight of a dive point, too risky. So he should have known about this quite early on. It's just a lack of ability to do anything about it, really. What you have to keep in mind is this TC gets dropped in a small choke point. There's no wraparound opportunity. And even if you scout out the stone gathering early on, like how do you then deal with it, right? Still got a slow-moving army that has to loop-de-loo around the base. You're up against Sapahi that can easily pinch you if you're in the wrong position. Looks like we are now going to be moving into mobility for Louis. Very open map, very exposed on Kazva's side, so Knights will look to extract value from that. And Louis now prepping additional keeps. I don't really feel like Kazva's got anything to his advantage anymore. He's losing an eco. Military comp doesn't really look good for him. Like, he's mass crossbows, and I don't think he has enough Springles to protect against the Mangos. Not easily, anyway. He would have to out-micro Louis twice, maybe 3 times, because he needs enough space to not only win the fight, but then park himself here with trebuchets. That's going to take time, and remember, time is not on Kazva's side. Almost 8 minutes only remaining until a Sacred Site victory for Louis. So we have got the 339 on the high trade house. Like, plenty of gold. Like, gold has never really been the issue for Kazva. It's just food. Food has always been his starving point, right? And you can see it in the way he's trying to, like, compose an army together. It's not pretty to look at. Meanwhile, back at home, Louis says, I've actually got enough eco to keep going, buddy. I'm not done yet. So more stables being added in, more knights being laid in. Siege will commence. Now remember, Louis has been gathering plenty of stones, so can easily build a second keep, or at least sustain the current one for quite a while. Kazva realizes what this is about to turn into. It is going to be a keep race, so he'll move out to the center as well. Gotta say, these stone mines are tightly clustered near the center, right? They're very kind of exposed, but this southern one more so than northern one because of the way Louis dropped the keep. Mangos will now attempt to smash, and oh, Kazva, no, that's yeah, get the hell out of Dodge. Not the place to be. There's a lot of idle villages as well. 20 just not working for him. That's the thing. You have to look at this number, and then you have to add like a minus 20 from Kazva. Every time he's running away, they're just not gathering for him. And there's no idle eco on the other side, which is another big lead for Louis. And passive gold for Kaz at least somewhat evens that up. But then we have to talk about passive unit production for Louis, which is quite bulky at this stage. Did unlock the ability to get the professional schools, so he's able to produce either Knights or Janissaries. No Trebs needed by Louis. Note that detail, right? He has got one coming out, but realistically, he didn't have to rush to this because he has control of the Sacred Site. So all on Kazva to break through. Kaz, who really cannot get easy access to this stone still. Lancers are going to march forward, force the retreat out. Clash will commence. Spearman pushing back against this. Mangos are wiggling away in trebuchets, assisting along. The Springles now trading out. Mango stands strong, though. Heavy damage in the back line. Kazva looking like he's going to break. Springles aren't there to assist anymore. One Mango is good enough to keep his opponent at bay, and this is the problem that you have with your Kazva. A trade-out doesn't work. You need to win a fight. This is most definitely not going to be that. Springle advantage lies with Louis. Mango and Trebs as well. This is looking one-sided. And mostly D-sided at that. This one Mango can easily clean up the rest of the army. The crossbows are just unable to find a way to finesse in. And although the keep goes down, the damage really looks like it's already been done here. Louis can just back away. Doesn't need to rush through this. Kazva, what's he left with? A crossbow ball that's countered. A need for more siege. A need for speed. 5 minutes remaining on the Sacred Site timer. Wood heavily being chunked into by Louis. Janissary is even added in. Looks like he did use the Vizier points to get an extra 8 here. And it's fine for Louis to do this. You lose some long-term scalability, but remember, his goal is not long-term. It's now. So many crossbows still to his name. The Mango still to play with. It's hard to see a way that Kasva can actually break through. Trebs are at least trying to give him some wiggle room here. The Springles are always pushing him back. And remember that Kasva does lack any way of dealing with Siege outside of Springles. And the problem with this type of composition, folks, is it makes you very one-dimensional, very kind of predictable. In that if you do not have enough Springles, you do not have any way of winning Siege battles. That's the problem here. Kasva, when he's at such a big eco deficit, it's hard to see if he'll be able to have enough Springles together. Especially when you consider Louis already has more and has the passive production constantly coming out from the Mehmed Imperial Armory. Treb count now up to 2. And this staging point that Kasva's had, probably not long for this world. Because now he's in a situation where he'd have to idle eco just to keep it up. Maybe one last Ura in him. The second keep up from Louis, I'm struggling to see a way. I would not be surprised if Louis now just goes to the stone outcropping as well on the south side. Well, there's Kasva's long-term food. He's stuck on the board in the end. The impressive part to me is that Kasva still hasn't resorted to farms. But at the same time, if he ever did, this game is already over. Like, you can see what the meta currently is. If you have to go farms, it's pretty much GG. Unless you're playing as HRE, can get away with it some situations. And then the other one is, of course, the English. And Chinese, because they boom so absurdly fast. They can just get the payday point. But most other civs just don't want to do it. Here it comes, Kasva's last attempt. Lancers are going to march out. Janissary's crossbows ready to hold them back. Mango shots coming in. It's the full Uraz. Kasva rushes the villagers. He knows with 3 minutes left, he's got time to work with, but it has to be now or never, and it seems like it is going to be never, ever for Mr. K. It's just too many casualties here. Production not really feeling like it's clearly on Kasva's side. Sure, he has a slight military lead, but double keep to deal with. Only 2 trebuchets to his name. There is no claim that he can lay onto the Sacred Site. A nice attempt by Kasva. I think he just got locked into a very one-dimensional army. You know, if he had found a way to layer in knights earlier on, possibly it worked, but you have to remember the food limitations Kasva was under here in the early game. Just he didn't have clear access, and that was to Louis' credit. The way he played out into the map, the way he took away the boar extension and delayed that time for Kasva was key to this outcome. Louis understood very well it's always going to be a keep rush in the end, and as soon as he sees Kasva committing for that goal, he can beam to it because he has a stronger eco. So he's able to commit more people onto the stone. Those were the key details. From that point on, Louis cruise moded this. Still with 1 keep up, there is just no way that Kasva can commit onto the site. Cool thing now for Louis is he can just layer in small amounts of troops onto the Sacred Site over the next 2 minutes, and it never gets decapped. The only way Kasva can go in is once that keep is down. However, think about the attack time it's going to take you here. Right? You have to wait over 10 seconds between attacks. You need another 4 rounds of attacks. That's going to take you under the minute mark if you want this keep gone. That's too long. This is why Kasva needs to look to move now. Another Mango in play, though, and that's problematic. Springles are far away, but he needs to get on that Sacred Site now. Because the Mango now might get some premium shots out here. Heavy dose of pain attempted. A few units are going to be injured by this. Villagers are going to be pulled to deal with the trebuchet. Now, that long attack speed, this is a good play. Louis is going to deny the keep going down here. You better torch out those trebs. Without it being on fire, there is no way in hell Kasva can stand on that site. Villager repair crew is going to come out, and Louis, with the villager play, just secured this game. Kasva has no way back in. What a play to ensure it. If that keep goes down, there is a world in which Kasva can get the decap. But now, with limited troops and the keep still alive, there is no hope in hell. Kasva is going to get wiped. Louis will take the game. after Casper's attempts, Louis' patience there just fins them down, fins the hurt, and then looks for the clean wraparound after Casper is far too hard committed on the south side. Brilliant read, brilliant game. Shows you exactly why Louis is in the top 10 right now on the 1v1 and the team leaderboards. This guy has got some talent. Looking forward to seeing what it can do in the coming 1v1 tournaments and maybe more team tournaments in the future.